Good morning. My name is Ian Watson, and I'm the Executive Director of the American Membrane Technology Association, or AMTA. Our intent with this series of Pioneer Chats is to record the history of the development of the membrane technology industry in the United States. And in doing so, we have been interviewing several members that took part in the development of membranes during the early days. We intend to archive these chats with pioneers, as we call them, and make them available to our membership so that they can go back and look at and listen to some of the people who were instrumental in moving the technology to where it is today. This morning is Pioneer Chat number 11, and we are interviewing Mr. Chuck Mungle, who was at General Atomics during the very first early days of the development of the ROGA reverse osmosis membrane. Chuck.
Very good.
When did you start at General Atomics?
I started at General Atomic in 1968, and everything was a beginning. The facilities all being built and prepped. When I was interviewed coming down from Los Angeles, there was one building out at the Torrey Pines site, and the rest of it grew up around it with the circular building and that encompassed a cafeteria and a library, and the rest of it was that one building. And everything that was begun started there, with everybody just crowded into that one particular building. And there was some time around there, around the beginning, where they put in a swimming pool and tennis courts, and all for employees' use whenever they felt like it.
That must have been a pretty nice place to work.
And it was quite surprising, to have that done that way. And there were a number of well-known, I'll say, celebrities, scientists from different places in the world, and that would come into there, and some stayed on and as permanent employees, and others worked just there as consultants.
On my left is Don Walker, who was also at ROGA in the early days, and who we have interviewed previously. And he and Chuck are good friends, and so Don's here to assist in this interview, and we certainly appreciate that, Don.
Well, thank you very much.
And I think what Chuck was referring to, I think, was you were talking about family night.
Oh, family night was a great night there, because we could bring our families, and we'd have a meal, and if I'm not mistaken, it was free. For a while it was free, and then they started to charge. But it was a wonderful, wonderful place to work. And I met Charlie, maybe kind of in the beginning, but more so when the reverse osmosis really started up. We worked in that group together. I did purchasing for the group, and
Right.
Charlie did the technical.
Right. When you first went to work there, did you work in the reverse osmosis membrane group, or were you working on the atomic energy side?
The atomic energy part was what I started working on, although I was hired there because the previous job was a hot cell operator,
Right.
and they wanted to fill that position at General Atomic. The only thing that held them up was the fact that there was no hot cell yet. So it was like being hired out in the clouds somewhere. But anyway, they were ready to begin planning for the construction of a hot cell. And prior to going to General Atomic, I worked as a water plant operator in the Beverly Hills Water Department. So it was a kind of a plush sort of a thing to begin with Beverly Hills, the city of Beverly Hills having their own water treatment plant, which was quite unusual at the time. And so that had piqued my interest in water treatment. And so I transferred from the radiation section of the operation of the country to two-letter water treatment. And I don't know if if that was all there was. There was the nuclear section of it. Office of Saline Water Department. That's correct, isn't it?
Yep, that's correct, Joe.
And it was assigned to the chemistry department. Somebody had looked at the Harbor Drive facility because there were 3 buildings available. Yep. And somebody decided that they should go into this this effort to find a suitable use for reverse osmosis and
Right.
demonstrated it. And there was a Torrey Pines facility where it all started with Dr. Merton.
Mm-hmm.
And actually he had an office in at Torrey Pines, because he was the head of the chemistry department.
Mm-hmm. That
Ulrich Merton.
Dr. Merton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ulrich Merton, and he was the one that developed it. His responsibility.
Yeah, we talked to him yesterday, and he told us that he got a call from his boss one day, and he said, and I think it was his boss that knew Sid Loeb.
I think
at
so.
UCLA.
Yeah.
So he said that he had a friend at UCLA, and they were doing some research on this new technology for water treatment, or reverse osmosis, and he should go up to LA and visit UCLA and talk to them about it and see if there was any commercial potential in what they were doing.
Uh-huh.
So Dr. Merton went up there and came back and told the folks at General Atomics that he thought it's something that they should take a look at.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote a proposal and sent it up to the Office of Saline Water, got funded, and that's how the whole thing started, apparently. And you were right there at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
I think Charlie was also involved with the rolling or trying to roll the first spiral elements, weren't you? Didn't you work in that area too?
Yes, that
Yeah.
was part of the operation, part of the research program. Develop the membrane elements, as they were called. And Dr. Merton that's exactly what
Right.
I've heard, that he was responsible for
Right.
UCLA and getting it a program down here in San Diego.
It must have been really interesting to be trying to do something that nobody had ever done before.
Uh-huh.
And to take a membrane and then convert it into a usable piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to figure out how to do that?
Well, I would say that it wasn't too awful long. Maybe in a year. A fellow in the chemistry department named Al Hatcher was well acquainted with Ulrich Merton, and he had some plywood boxes made about 3 or 4 inches deep, and he put the solution in one end and turned by hand the solution to solidify to make it a composite membrane.
Yeah.
And when he first put it together, it leaked considerably. As time went on, it leaked more. And so he bought some of the present day sealant, and he would mix chemicals to form the membrane and poured that into a trough. And then the trough also had a means of smoothing out this bulk solution by turning it by hand and estimating the time it took to make that membrane. That it would go from the trough as a fluid and be smoothed out onto some fabric and solidified on support material. And that's not a very good explanation, but that was sort of the beginning of the thing, and it was something that I always remembered was this plywood box. They moved that to Harbor Drive and started setting up laboratories at the Harbor Drive facility, which consisted of an office building that they called it, and downstairs were all offices, and upstairs were engineers and other technical people. Another one for production of membrane elements to go into use in commercial applications. And the third building was a hangar, an old hangar that was had previously belonged to the Coast Guard, I believe, World War II vintage. And at the time, the owner of General Atomic was Gulf Oil.
Right.
And Merton was transferred for other reasons, all good, to Gulf Oil Corporation, and so he left San Diego.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I would say that probably in a year's time is a safe thing to say.
And then when he left, was that when Seymour Kremen took over the program?
Seymour Kremen? Yeah, it must have been right close by.
Yeah.
I would agree with
Right.
Charlie on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's close to that time. We're
Yeah.
talking a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I went to work one day and it's pretty vague, but I can remember going to work and not having heard of anything. And it was all coming at like the clouds, but we were introduced to Dr. Merton or Dr. Kremen.
Mm-hmm.
And we, or at least I, hadn't been introduced to him or heard anything about the change that was taking place.
And that was Dick Sudak also was working at General Atomics and transferred over to the membrane side.
Yes, and Dick Sudak was there, and Ted Larson.
Ted Larson.
Mm-hmm.
Was the general manager.
Right.
Dick Sudak was the manager of the engineering department, I think.
Right. Right.
Or the overall chemistry operation.
Where were the systems built?
The systems were built at the Harbor Drive facility,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of hand to mouth there for a while, and not having adequate facilities and that
Right.
sort of thing. But the whole thing got started, and it had some good people, and they got to develop quickly the spiral around concept of a means of economically utilizing the membrane to purify the water.
And it was that ROGA membrane was really the first commercial RO membrane.
Mm-hmm.
And DuPont, I guess, followed pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, I think DuPont did with their fiber,
yeah,
and then
DuPont.
Filmtech.
And, well,
came
Filmtech
on
was a few years later.
A few years later, yeah.
But
then
for a
they-
long time, it was you guys versus DuPont.
Yeah. And we,
That's right,
you know,
yeah.
we used to buy our pressure vessels and then bring them into the facility and have to sandblast the inside of the steel pressure vessels. Remember that? How we'd have to clean those out, and then we would coat the inside of the
Side,
vessel.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And invariably there was a leak
Yeah,
somewhere in there that Charlie would have to fix.
I guess in those days, you didn't have powder coating and
No,
all that kind of
no.
advanced technology to make nice coated steel.
I'd like to, if I could just take the opportunity to mention one thing that Charlie did, and we have to thank him for that. We all know about Orange County Municipal Water District
Yep.
with their, 80 million gallon day system now. Well, Charlie ran the pilot program up at Orange County.
Is that right? When was that?
What year was that, Charlie? Do you remember when you ran the pilot program at Orange County?
I don't remember, no, but I believe sometime in the 1970s. Well, somewhere along the line, the elements went to the engineering department, and the engineering department said, that included me, engineering department, and somewhere along the line then Jack Luce and the engineering department had a small little pilot plant with the big elements, and had made arrangements to test this membrane at the Orange County facility. So anyway, I don't remember exactly how it worked, but it was like something sophisticated, like Jack Luce said, hey, these are keys to the trailer. Put that thing on the trailer and take it to Orange County.
Do you remember how large the pilot unit was?
I was thinking 5,000 gallons a day.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must have been.
It was the first of the 8-inch diameter. In other words, just more membrane in the same space as it went before. And so we did a program. I don't know how long it lasted. I'm going to guess maybe a year. But that's probably pushing it. But anyway, that was the initial pilot plan. It was put in outdoors, a pump and pressure vessels, and it was we changed elements in it. I remember at one time or another we changed elements, but it was outdoors, and then it was transferred to the R&D department, and they were to evaluate the performance under different conditions, that sort of thing. And the elements that we made initially were 4 inches in diameter and 40 inches long, I'll say. I'm not sure.
I think 36 inches. I think they were.
36.
Were they 36?
Yeah,
initially?
36. Yeah, and I think they went to 40, made them longer. I think the initial were 36.
Yeah.
Do you remember Izzy Nussbaum?
Yes. And do you know?
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what his future was there?
No, but I met him probably in 1973 or 4.
Uh-huh.
We had a conference down in the Ocean Reef Club in Florida, and I was a member of this association at that time, but very young and very junior, and so they gave me the task of being on the chairman of the nominating committee to nominate directors for the coming year.
Uh-huh.
So I talked to all the existing directors, and they all said they'd like to do it again. So when we put the slate on the floor, we only had one name against each position.
Uh-huh.
And so suddenly, they asked for a motion to approve the slate, and suddenly this hand shoots up from the audience, and it's Izzy Nussbaum. And he says, "I object." And then he was joined by 2 or 3 other people, and they proposed their own slate, and that slate got elected. So my slate was thrown out. And that was the first time I ever met Izzy Nussbaum.
You can't forget Iz Nussbaum.
Oh, you can't forget Iz, no.
He was
he was funny.
He was funny.
guy.
He was power in the field too.
Yeah.
There was a group of genuinely talented people, including yourself, that worked at ROGA in the early days.
And Al Riedinger was there at that time, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Al Riedinger did a lot of the engineering. He was kind of an upfront guy with the use of computers. And the computers themselves weren't all that sophisticated.
I think they probably still had some vacuum tubes in them. But
That's right.
Charlie, I can remember that we would have to go to Al Riedinger because he was about the only one that could use a computer, and if you had a water analysis, you would give him the water analysis and he'd put it into the computer, and initially I don't think anybody had the right water analysis, and he would always complain about that, but he was the only one that could tell us what the product would be.
Uh-huh. Right.
That's, I think that's one of the interesting aspects of the technology, because when, we all, in the days when we all started, there were no computers. And so anything you did, you had to do by hand calculation. And then, computers came along, but most people couldn't afford to have one. So they just could rent a terminal. I can remember typing stuff into a terminal. It took hours to do
But they
it.
had vacuum tubes in some
And
of
then
those
you had
too,
to
didn't
wait
they?
hours for the answer to come back. So,
Yeah.
it wasn't. My initial reaction to computers was that it'll never last.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was the days of the slide rule.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And time-consuming thing, like you said.
That's right. That's right.
Kept going, and then I remember pretty clearly that Al Riedinger, they assigned this fellow named Randy Truby.
Oh.
And Randy Truby was quite successful in his aspect of things.
Right.
And he hired Randy Truby, whom we know now today as very successful with his experience.
And Ron Fox was there then too.
Ron Fox
Yeah.
was there. And Ron Fox came there, and maybe in the middle of the initial development.
Mm-hmm.
But Ron Fox was there for at least half of it, and he's a graduate chemist and very capable. He's done a lot of work for what was then ROGA, or referred to as ROGA before going on to other assignments.
Now, did you get to work out in the field on startups and that kind of thing?
Yes, I did. I transferred to the engineering department, and the way we did it then was they'd hire what they would call an engineer, and the engineer would take the project from the beginning, follow it on through till delivery to the customer, and then go to the site, customer site, and participate with the startup of the system until it was operating the way it was designed. And aside from Orange County was prior to that sort of thing, and at Orange County, they had moved us again to an engineering facility on Arrow Drive, and all people signed at the engineering department were transferred.
Is that
to
up in
Arrow
Scripps
Drive.
Ranch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can remember Arrow Drive. Lived here for quite a while already. couldn't find Arrow Drive. When I was going to work one Monday morning and everything had been transferred, and that was okay because I had the address, and except that it wasn't okay because I couldn't find Arrow Drive.
That was the days before direction finders.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a good map, you were out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember very plainly. I had the telephone. I called be a friend of yours, Gretchen.
Oh, Gretchen?
Drums.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ask her, well, hey, this is all great. Yeah. Nice new facility and everything, but I haven't seen it yet. It's on Arrow Drive, and there isn't any such place.
When you worked with Jerry Foreman, what was he responsible for? And what did you do with him?
He was R&D. He would be responsible to Seymour Kremen. And I don't know whether he would be called an assistant manager or what, but he was the research and development second in command. Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry and I became good friends. We used to have, I worked on a project in Florida
Uh-huh.
where we had a problem because of an over-enthusiastic operator. And the plant had been built and operating for some months. And they managed to flush the cellulose acetate membranes with a high pH caustic soda solution, and which destroyed the membranes pretty much. So I really got to know Jerry Foreman then, because we had a lot of discussions about hydrolysis of the membrane, and how long did it take, and what temperature did to it, and how the pH was involved, and so on. And then subsequent to that, we spent a lot of time back and forth on telephone calls and in the early days of email, talking about silica, because silica was becoming an issue in many places.
The one
Yes.
that held the whole group together on the lighter side was Dorothy Bunker. And she was Ted Larson's secretary. And she was hell on wheels. But she was good. Remember Dorothy? Dorothy Bunker?
I remember Bunker, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a unique individual. Yeah. And Jerry Foreman, very competent. I really like Jerry Foreman.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a good problem solver.
Yeah. How long did you work at ROGA and then Fluid Systems?
ROGA and Fluid Systems. Well, let's see. Orange County startup had already occurred, and Charlie Hall was preparing to leave. And Charlie Hall was actually the project manager for Fluid Systems during the construction of that plant, or the beginning of it.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Hall was.
Of the Orange County plant? Yeah.
He's seldom ever mentioned, but he did a fine job.
Yeah.
And you worked with Jack Luce?
Jack Luce, yes. Jack Luce was the head of the engineering department. I was still in the research department, and somehow or another we decided that I would transfer to engineering.
Well, I think that this has been great. And We appreciate you having us to your home and conducting this this chat with you. And it's been my privilege to be here and meet you finally.
Well, thank you.
And wish you good luck, and thanks very much. Appreciate it. And Don,
You're welcome.
thanks for setting up. Appreciate
You're welcome.
it. Good.